G'day everyone, welcome back to another weekly tipping video on the channel. We're going to be going over my tips for round 19 of the 2024 AFL season. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video. And as always, let's start off with how it went last week. Okay, so the tipping from round 18, not my week. We're in a bit of a bad slump of tipping, must be said. I only got a 4 out of 9. Backed in Collingwood on the Friday night game. I was bullish on them for an emotional bounce back to get back a bit of their energy, but it just wasn't the case. The Cats were too good. The Swans against North Melbourne got that tip correct. Went with Fremantle against the grain a little bit. I've been backing in Hawthorn some games, other games I haven't, and I went against them there. Went with the Blues against the Dogs, but the Dogs with a pretty resilient win, even with all those outs and an undermanned defence. Adelaide at home against the Saints got that tip correct. The Bombers, looks like I fell into that trap. How about that from Melbourne, though? Really good win with no Gordon, no Petrarca. And then for the Sunday games, went with Port Adelaide because I have a very good record against Gold Coast, and I can really upset you sometimes, or really, they're just so unpredictable, Port, with tipping, but could not get them there. And then the Giants and the Brisbane Lions with pretty straightforward tips there to complete the round. Okay, let's have a quick look now at my tipping competition leaderboard update. We did get a few people get full scores of 9 out of 9. It was Finish the Story, the men, Aldrin and Mattyboy22 all getting 9 out of 9. That is, I mean, massive kudos to them. Very difficult to do with, especially a few upsets throughout the round. And as for who is leading my competition, it is 𝐼𝐻𝐴 with a total score of 132. Let's now begin with our tips for round 19. We start on the Friday night with the Bombers taking on the Crows at Marvel Stadium, 7:40 p.m. Disappointing outing it was from the Dons last week against the Cats. It was a good opportunity for them to push up in the top 4, but could not do it. I felt their midfield was very disappointing. The D's were able to win plenty of clearance against them, and just defensively, they were a train wreck. Melbourne were able to capitalise off a lot of the Dons' mistakes, and facing an Adelaide side that's currently sitting 14th, but I'll tell you what, their form has been somewhat okay. 2 wins out of their past 3 games, and they're now starting to play a lot more of the kids. I thought Zach Taylor was great in their win last week. Dowling, he was pretty impactful. Riley Thorpe also made his return as a sub, kicked 2 goals, so surely he does start this week. Don't mind the Crows here for a bit of a sneaky tip. Almost like nothing to lose. Pretty sure their season is actually still a chance to make the finals. But always a side with upside, in my opinion. And when they really get their game going, they can be a good side off the turnover and get a lot of points from the back half. The Dons were able to get the win over the Crows last time out in that infamous finish, of course. But given this is at Marvel Stadium, we've seen plenty of good and bad with Essendon. Still feel like they'll make a push towards the finals and just needing a bounce back. The midfield was disappointing defensively, just conceded a lot of bad goals off mistakes. I'm sensing a bit of bounce back here for the Bombers, a lot to play for, so we're going to go with them. We'll tip the Dons here against the Crows. Could go back and forth this one, but I think in the end Essendon will win this one by 17 points. For the Saturday games now, first one up, we do have the Saints taking on the West Coast Eagles at Marvel Stadium. West Coast, we're all expecting a bit of an emotional sort of response after Adam Simpson getting the sack, and I thought they were pretty gallant in defeat against the Lions. Much more of a better effort, and heading over now to Marvel to playing another bottom 4 side of the Saints, definitely got to give them a bit of a chance here. West Coast always seem to play Marvel quite well, so don't mind them here initially. But as for St Kilda, just back to their usual old bad stuff. Just cannot score. 39 points in the rain, but back under the lid at Marvel, they should get their game. Get their good game back going. Look what they did against the Swans. Really were able to control the football well. Beat them with that running power. A big out for the Saints though, with 𝐼𝐻𝐴 going down with that hip problem. He's been very influential last 2 weeks since he's moved more into the midfield. So a bit of a loss there. West Coast throughout games this season have been able to control midfield battles, and the Saints, when they don't play well, they've had plenty of games this year where their stoppage game has been poor, so this is an area where the Eagles could say, hey, let's try to beat the Saints in this area. So I think the Eagles might push them here, but given it's the Saints at home, we'll probably back them in here to get the game on their terms and win this one. So the Saints to knock off the Eagles here. Back and forth a wee bit, but St Kilda should storm on home and win this one by 3 goals, 18 points. Then at the same time, we do have the Expansion Cup, as people like to call this one. GWS taking on the Gold Coast Suns at NG Stadium. Well, it's just quite simple when looking at Gold Coast tips all season long now. They win every single game at home. They have yet to pick up a single win away from home. So I guess you could just tip GWS right away, but we've got to ask. Surely it's going to happen eventually. They couldn't do it against North. Can they do it here against the Giants? Well, GWS, when they get the ball rolling like they were able to last year, they can become a real good force. And I think now they're starting to get those important role players contributing. It was really the Jesse Hogan and Toby Green show, though, last week in their win over Richmond. Just so clinical. That was, I think, the key to their win. For the Suns to win, though, they've definitely got to expose the Giants off the turnover and also in the midfield. Those are their strengths when they really get up and about the Suns. But just not brave enough to tip him here, if we're talking about it from a tipping point of view. Giants also have a very good record over Gold Coast too, so maybe if this game was up in the Gold Coast, I'd probably back them in here. But GWS, they're in good form, few wins on the trot now. They should now start to get the ball rolling a little bit. And yeah, they're playing with they're very clinical from what I watched last week's win against the Tigers. So yeah, we'll back them in here. We'll go with the Giants against the Suns to win by 20 points. Then at 4:35 p.m. we have probably one of the games of the round. It's a mass one here. The Hawks taking on the Pies at the MCG. Could the Hawks add another nail to the Collingwood coffin? It's been terrible last few weeks for the Pies, and there's now questions on, is their season done? Probably a lot of supporters would say yes, but on the channel we always like to keep optimistic about every single side. I've kept bullish about Collingwood, but I haven't got a few of their tips right as of late. But geez, it's not looking too great though. Just a mixture of everything. Lack of injuries and young players not really coming through. The depth being an issue too. Players out of form like Darcy Moore, a little bit of 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐽. The absence of Murphy's really shown this season too, I feel. Getting exposed a little bit in the midfield, not getting much supply forward of the ball. They'll play a good patch of 15 minutes and then they'll just go dead. And looking at the past two games, they've definitely been in areas of games where they could come back in the fourth quarter, but they've just shown absolutely no spark. So surely they're going to pick up a win eventually soon, but can they do it here against the Hawks? One of the most exciting teams to watch in the competition. They're sort of like a younger Collingwood. They look fun to watch. They're very fun to watch, and I think they really get around each other well. They're excited. They always have smiles on their faces. They're the more of the informed team in the competition. The grand level game and their contested game has been very impressive, and pretty much the post-bye run. I thought their midfield was outstanding against Fremantle's, especially in their win last week. John Newcombe really stood tall. Lloyd Meek very influential in the ruck as well. So I definitely still want to keep bullish on the Pies to eventually pick up a win, but it just isn't looking like it at the moment. Out of form. That aura is slightly fading away too, but geez, they've proven a lot of people wrong. So good go with them here for the tip, but it's hard to go against Hawthorn. I've been able to get a few correct and a few roughy tips this season with the Hawks, and then when I've gone against them, it hasn't paid off. So I'll back them in here, the Hawks. The team more in form, and I'm really keen to see how this one pans out. So yeah, we'll go with the Hawks here, and they'll knock off the Pies here by 16 points. For Saturday night footy, first game up, we have Port Adelaide taking on the Tigers at the Adelaide Oval. Richmond, I thought they were pretty competitive against the Giants last week. They were able to gain a lot of ground position, get a lot of inside 50s. I think it was like plus 16 or plus 17 inside 50s against the Giants, which is a pretty good number. So the big one is that contested game, especially against a side of Port Adelaide. If you can really beat them in the scramble well and move it fast, move it efficiently, you can definitely challenge Port Adelaide. And they've been challenged so often at the Adelaide Oval this season. And geez, Port Adelaide, very hot and cold side. We saw against the Bulldogs where if the midfielders get going and they can move the ball really well end to end, they're one of the more dangerous teams in the competition. But haven't seen much of that this year. They've been exposed a bit at the Adelaide Oval, but you have to be pretty brave to tip the Tigers here. They'll probably push Port Adelaide, I feel, but just more the classier team, Port. Pushing for finals, a lot to play for, and they're usually good against these somewhat bottom six sides in the competition, especially at home. So if this was like another top 8 side, probably go against them here, but they should find a way to knock off the Tigers. And we'll go with Port Adelaide here to win it by 23 points. And for the other Saturday night game, we have the Cats taking on the Bulldogs at 𝐓𝐿𝐴 Stadium down there at the Cat. category. The Cats currently sitting in the top 4. It's been an awesome last 3 weeks from them. They've brought back a bit of their DNA of being able to control the football well, being a lot more tougher in the midfield. I think Bose has been in great form, and Dangerfield, his ability to burst out of stoppage and congestion has been key to their midfield work, and they're just such a highly cohesive side when they do move it, and that's definitely been on show with their past 3 wins. I thought Stengel and also Brad Close, and even a bit of Sean Mona spliced through the middle. A lot of those smalls and role players really contributing well, even with the absence of Tom Hawkins. But the question is, can they knock off the Bulldogs? Well, they certainly can, but it's more the question of, can the Dogs play good footy? Because, geez, you can never get the tips right, or for my case, I can never get them right. How are they going to turn up to this game? I think they play usually in Geelong quite well. I think with that smaller ground, they're able to play it a bit more on their terms if they can win a lot of ball from win the stoppage game and generate a lot of scores from that. They were very good in the centre bounce in last week's win against the Blues, so if they can gain ascendancy in that midfield, and I thought they moved it very well against the Blues too. So to be fair, I think this one could really go either way. Wouldn't surprise me if the Dogs win this one. Cats looking like the safe one here, and I probably should tip them, but something's just telling me the Bulldogs here, and I've been awful with tipping them this year, but maybe going against the grain, I might be able to get a Docky's tip correct for once. Just feeling it. The last few weeks is going to be very, very important for them, and I just think if they can really gain control of that midfield game, they really are able to bring their strengths to the table and get on top. So, going to go against the grain here with the Dogs. I think they can get the win here over the Cats. So the Doggies to win a close one by 7 points. And for the Sunday games, first one up, we do have the Brisbane Lions taking on the Sydney Swans at the Gabba. This is probably one of the games of the round, and it's being played 1:10 p.m. on a Sunday. Oh dear, they've got to get these fixtures right, the AFL. But anyways, it's still going to be a cracker. The Lions sitting in 4th, the Swans sitting in 1st, so a good old top 4 battle this one is. Brisbane's form has been outstanding. I think they've won the past 6 games, and they're now starting to bring back their strengths of dominance from stoppage and really good off the turnover too. And they play especially at the Gabba, they're able to control the football and retain possession really well. And what we've been able to see is when you can do that against the Swans, gain a lot of uncontested ball and take away theirs, they're definitely a beatable side. There's not going to be any Charlie Cameron for this game though. That's going to be a big piece out of their forward mixture out of the team. As for the Swans, no Justin McInerney, who's a very versatile and handy player for them. They will get back 𝐼𝐴𝐴 𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐴 and also a chance to get back in 𝐵arry Cunningham. So some important ins there for the Swannies. But yeah, this one is an interesting game because I just still think Brisbane at home, it's hard to go against them. But when looking at the Swans, they're on the top of the table for a reason. When you look at all their losses, their games they probably could have won, and they've all been under a kick. So, especially when looking at Brisbane with their defensive transition and looking at how well the Swans can move the ball, I think the Swans can really beat them on speed here and outdo Brisbane in those areas. So, if they can just really get that transition game going, end-to-end game going, that the Swans do oh so well, bring the pressure up, I think the Swans are the better team here, and I probably will back them in here, but it's been a while since I've gone against the Swannies, and it's not tipping against them for the sake of it, but I just still think Brisbane, they're storming home. They usually finish the end of seasons quite well too, and just so many seasoned bodies in there, like Lachie Neale and Dunkley and Danaher for the ball. If they can really control the clearances against the Swans and take away their ball movement and control the footy well, I think I'll go against the Swans here and back in Brisbane. So, don't mind the Swannies here. I think they're probably the better side at it, and they could easily win this one here, but I think I'll go with Brisbane in this one. So this one, I think we'll have a lot of lead changes, but the Lions do storm home and win it by 10 points. Then for Sunday primetime, we have the Dockers taking on the Demons at Optus Stadium, 3:20 p.m. I've got to give Melbourne their flowers the last few weeks. It's just not really been their season with a lot of personal issues. No Petrarca, no Max Gawn, and resilient win it was last week against the Dons. Their defence and contest I thought was outstanding. Stephen May and Jake Cleaver, them as a defensive duo. You can't forget these two players. They are still very, very impactful as a tandem. And Van Ryan and Penny, I thought battled well okay in the ruck, but it was really their midfielders led by Trent Rivers that were able to gain a lot of clearance and ascendancy in that midfield, and were just very clinical with their chances. They were very good off the turnover, and that's Melbourne at their best. They are a good turnover side. So how will they fare here against Fremantle though? Well, the Dockers at home pretty strong outfit. They move the ball really well with that high hand pass game, and I think their midfield lower their colours a little bit, and they should get back in Shaun Dux, which is just critical importance to their structure and also their stoppage game with his hit-out work and ability to shark it out of the contests and win clearance. So the past 4 games, Melbourne have won 3 of them. I think they're going a lot better than probably what people thought after a few of their losses, like against West Coast. So definitely don't mind them for the TP. But given this one is at home, I'll probably back in the Dockers here. I just think more of the completer midfield on paper. And although they do show their inconsistencies, they did get a massive win over them last time out. And yeah, I just see Fremantle really beat them well here with ball movement and off the contest. So yeah, the Dockers, I'll back in here against the Ds. But I reckon this one will be a lot more close than probably what people think. Melbourne to push them, but the Dockers to storm home and win it by 16 points. And as for the final game of the round, we do have the Blues taking on North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium, 4:40 p.m, the final game of the round. North last week's loss against the Swans. Unfortunately, it was sort of the 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of scenario when you look at it. Past pretty good. I think they've been very good post-bye, but yeah, I think they'll probably due for a bit of a bad loss, given they are still a very young side and a developing team. There's no shame in that, getting well beaten by the Swans. They are top of the table for a reason, but very quiet games from 𝐼𝐻𝐿, and also Wardlaw, his first game back, looked pretty rusty too, but their ball skills were like in the first half of the season, just really poor. The pressure was off, some bad turnovers in there, bad turnovers too. So back under the lid at Marvel, I expect them to really bounce back and play much better. Try and gain some dominance off clearance and also in that midfield, because they've been awesome when they've been able to get up on top of that area and move the ball. Like the North balls we've been saying, just move it quickly and move it fastly. And before that Swans game, their defence was looking, I think, one of the best defences in the competition. So, yeah, looking at the Blues, they've dropped their past 2 games. They've been beaten when you can really collectively beat Carlton's midfield. So, as we just said before, North could definitely beat them in that area. But the Blues here, usually good against these bottom-ranked sides, so it's hard to tip North Melbourne. I just think Blues, better side on paper, should win this one well. But North, maybe give them a bit of a scare with the Carlton Footy Club to storm home and win it by 24 points. So overall, there are my tips for round 19. Let me know down below in the comments, who are you going to be tipping this week? Are you going to be going with any upsets or any roughies? I've gone for 1 or 2 in this video. Hopefully they do get up for me, but hopefully you did enjoy, everybody. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy today's video. And until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.